Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Watchlist. Basically, think of this as a monthly TV guide for me to let you know what and when TV shows that I'm interested in, maybe you're interested in too, are coming out. Like always, in the description down below, I'll include any links to any trailers that may be available about anything that I talk about in this watch list. On March 7th on NBC, we had the season 2 premiere of AP Bio. I'm very excited. If you have not checked out AP Bio, you need to change it. It is a very, very funny show. Essentially, this dude who's like, what's his whole thing? Is like he's like a philosophy major, and basically his career isn't where he wants it to be. He even has like a rival when it comes to this whole situation. Basically, he ends up moving back to his hometown, and the only job he can really get is basically teaching, but the class he teaches is an AP Bio class, and basically he's taking and molding these young minds into being corrupt people because he's not that good of a person. It's actually Glenn, and I'm going to just add an annotation because I don't remember his last name, but he's one of the actors from It's Always Sunny. But basically he's kind of not the best dude, but it's kind of interesting, like the bond he creates with these kids. Like they're all doing, like he kind of teaches them like very deplorable things to do, because literally the entire first season is about like, hey, let's destroy my rivals, reputation so that I can get my job. I can steal the life that he's basically created for himself. So it's all about benefiting himself in some way, but he always goes about some very like duplicitous manner, and the kids kind of become a part of it. Like some of the class is all for it, while other people in the class are like, no, just teach us AP Bio stuff, and he refuses to. So it's a very, very funny show that if you have not checked it out, I highly recommend you check it out. Also on that same day on Netflix, we have season 1, well, the series premiere of The Order. It basically seems like this school where, or college of sorts, where it's like, oh yeah, there's magic going on, and like the main protagonist is joining this group known as The Order, but it also seems like they're all being hunted down. It seems, based on the trailer, it seems very interesting. It's just kind of like a, magical, like, a little bit of a little bit of a horror element to it in a regard, because it seems like we're also dealing with like werewolves. Like beyond that, we don't know like how many other supernatural creatures we're dealing with, like what the world is all about in that universe. We just kind of have to wait for the show to come out to kind of really build things out. But it seems very interesting to see what what that ends up being all about. On March 10th on Starz, we have season 2 premiering of American Gods. Very excited about this. If you don't know what American Gods is, it's basically like, well, gods, literal gods exist in our world, and basically the main protagonist, Shadow, is kind of basically caught in between like a war between the old gods and the new gods. A lot of like stuff was set up in the first season, and it seems like we're paving the way for it, because I'm interested to see what Shadow's whole deal is, because it's like, I'm kind of getting the spoilers, but Wednesday had its purposes for Shadow in the first season. I'm curious to see the continuation of that. A lot of because it's interesting because a lot of stuff was set up in season 1, kind of giving a lot of backstory to a lot of the gods, mainly the old gods, or at least what I would assume are the old gods. Some of the other characters, definitely Wednesday's an old god, but I'm very interested to see what the story ends up being in this season, what Shadow's whole deal is. Complicated situation of having your wife around. Like obviously if you've seen season 1, like what her situation is, what that also means for Shadow, just the way things ended up playing out. So I'm very excited to see what season 2 has in store for us. On March 15th on Netflix, we have Love, Death, and Robots. Basically it's an anthology series, and I'm not really, I've always kind of made it clear I'm not really that big of a fan of anthology series. It's just the way I am. But the fact of the matter, it seems very interesting because it's like this animated, anthology series that basically deals with love, death, and robots, which is interesting. I basically, like, it's kind of the main theme of all the anthology things. So it isn't like some like kid-friendly thing. It is like some like probably like some like bloody stuff. It's like just an adult themed like cartoon. So I think the best thing I can kind of in my head, I'm thinking kind of like a heavy metal 2000 type of thing. Not really the best example to use, but it just in my head I kind of think like that. I mean, to be fair, we just saw like a whole bunch of like, it looks like a weird, crazy, psychedelic ride essentially, just from the little bit we saw from the trailer and stuff like that. So I'm very curious to check it out, just because, just to see what it ends up being about. It might be one of the first anthology series that I kind of go out of my way to watch. I'm interested in other stuff, but it's just like, once again, just me and anthology series. It's just, I have my particular quirks about it and everything. So on March 24th, on AMC, we have the return of Into the Badlands. I do want to put this out there too, just because, like, the fact is, I made a video like that went out Sunday. Basically, I used the wrong date because basically I was confusing it with the date of something else that was coming out on the 27th. I'll get to that soon enough. But basically, Into the Badlands returns on the 24th. So do keep that in mind. I got the date wrong before I tried to correct it. But nevertheless, I'm very excited yet kind of bummed because basically it turns out Into the Badlands is in this whole situation where basically the third season was apparently split in two. So what I thought was the season 3 finale was actually like the mid-season finale, because now the second half of it, which is coming back for the 8 final episodes, and that's kind of what bums me out because these are the final episodes of the show. So that is something to kind of consider too. It's interesting because like some things are saying season 4, other things are like being like, no, it's season 3B. So I think officially it's season 3B, but some places you'll see it simply as season 4. Like, once again, that's the whole conversation on why certain networks do that, like why distinguish like that. But it's like, hey, you do you. I guess it's not that big of a deal. It's just kind of a weird, interesting thing that some things end up doing. But I'm very excited to see what they do with these final episodes. Obviously, where things left off in season 3. Like I talked about before, like the craziness that Sunny unleashed. Obviously, we're delving into obviously the dark ones a lot, where things are going, because basically Sunny's gonna have to clean up the mess that he created. I mean, it's one of that thing of like, hey, you did it for your son and everything, but still you kind of cause a lot of issues. And then there's a lot of stories that I'm curious to kind of pick up, like with MK, like where Minerva's story ended up leaving off with the Master. Now that's definitely interesting, especially because Minerva was literally in the middle of a war when things kind of went down, and it's like, yo, it's time for this other main plot stuff to happen. So I'm very excited. Like I said, bummed, but excited to see what they do to kind of wrap up this series. On March 27th on Sci-Fi, we have season 2 of the TV show Happy. If you have not seen Happy, you should seriously change that. Like, you might as well watch it. It's on Netflix. It's only 8 episodes. The fact is, you have plenty of time to catch up before season 2 airs, but the fact of the matter is, it's this wild, crazy ride. Basically, a detective is working with an imaginary blue unicorn, essentially, that flies. It's just a wild, crazy ride of a show. Interestingly enough, and I thought this is kind of neat. Like, obviously, season 1 dealt with Christmas. This season is going to deal with Easter. Like, it seems like every season potentially is going to deal with a different holiday, which I had no idea that was going to be a theme of this show. But I'm very excited to obviously see, hey, Nick was in a good place at the end of season 1. It's like, let's see how we can basically screw that up for him, essentially, and just see Nick kind of, you know, trying to fight to be, you know, and I try not to go into spoilers, but trying to be a good family man. I guess that's still spoilers, but obviously he's trying to piece his life back together, and I'm curious to see, like, obviously just from the trailer I saw, like, things are just as wild and as crazy as before, but I'm so excited to see, you know, how things play out this season. And finally, on March 29th on Netflix, we have season 3 premiering of the Santa Clarita Diet, which I'm very excited for. If you don't know what Santa Clarita Diet is, it's basically kind of like a comedy horror zombie show. Basically, this man, Joel, and his wife, Sheila, basically, she becomes a zombie, and basically, Joel and their daughter, Abby, and their neighbor, who's kind of like a friend slash almost kind of like a son in a certain weird way, Eric, basically are dealing with this whole aspect of like, oh, you're a zombie, and just like, you know, shenanigans ensue, lots of blood, but it's just, like I say, it's not like, it doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, it is like a very comedy oriented show, obviously because it is on Netflix. I mean, this is a great time to also watch it too, because you can just easily, you know, watch the first 2 seasons. They're not that long. They're only like they're less than 30-minute episodes each, and the seasons are obviously short. It's Netflix. But I'm very interested to see where things pick up, what kind of shenanigans, you know, the family gets into this season, and obviously especially the way things left off last season. Don't want to go into spoilers and everything. And that brings this month's watch list to an end. Like always, if there's something you're aware of that's coming out that maybe I wasn't aware of, that you think maybe me or someone else might be interested in, don't be afraid to leave it in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good